First story: Whispers Beneath Still Waters. I always dreamed of a quiet place by the water, away from the city's chaos. When I found a house near Black Hollow Lake, it felt perfect, cheap, secluded, peaceful. The realtor said it had been abandoned for years. That should have been my first warning. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it, like the house was breathing. The air was thick, heavy, carrying the scent of damp wood and something else, something rotten. The previous owner left most of their furniture behind, as if they had left in a hurry. The first night was uneventful, until I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to the sound of soft ripples outside. I stood by the window, staring at the still lake, moonlight reflecting off its black surface. No wind, no animals, but the water moved like something was swimming just beneath. Each night, the noises got worse. The rippling turned into splashing, then into something that sounded like whispers. I started sleeping with the lights on. One night I heard something new, footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed the baseball bat by my bed and inched toward the door. The house was dark, except for the faint glow from the lake outside. I swung the door open. Nothing. I checked every room, empty. Then I saw it. The back door was open, but I had locked it before bed. A cold wind brushed against my skin as I stepped outside. The lake was silent, too silent. But as I turned back toward the house, I saw them, wet footprints leading from the water, straight to my door. I slammed it shut, locked every bolt, and didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I searched the property. Near the shore, half buried in the dirt, I found a journal. Its pages were warped with water damage, but I could still make out the name on the cover. Daniel Carter. I didn't know that name, but as I flipped through the pages, my hands began to shake. It comes at night. It whispers my name. I locked the doors, but it still got inside. The entries became more frantic. I see its face in the water. I can't leave. It won't let me. The last entry was smudged, written in shaky handwriting. If you find this, it's too late. Don't let it call your name. That night, I sat awake with every light on. The whispers started around 3. I covered my ears. I refused to listen. Then, through the sound of rustling leaves, I heard it, clear as day. A voice, calling my name. Second story: The House That Whispers. When we first saw the house, it felt like a dream. A 3-story Victorian on the outskirts of Black Hollow, Maine, with wraparound porches and towering oak trees. The price was suspiciously low, but we chalked it up to luck. My wife, Emily, and our son, Tyler, were thrilled. A fresh start, we thought. A new home, a new life. The first few days were uneventful. We unpacked, explored the creaky halls, and settled in. Then the whispers started. Late at night, as I lay in bed, I heard them. Soft, unintelligible murmurs drifting through the vents. At first, I blamed the old pipes or the wind, but as the nights went on, the whispers grew clearer. Words formed, spoken in hushed, desperate tones. "Get out!" Emily heard them too. One night, she shook me awake, her face pale. "You heard that?" she whispered. I nodded. The voice had been right outside our bedroom door. We searched the house. Nothing. No open windows, no one outside. Tyler, deep in sleep, seemed unaffected. A week in, the whispers became voices. Angry, pleading, sobbing voices. The air felt heavy, suffocating. Tyler started acting strange, talking to someone who wasn't there, staring at corners with wide, unblinking eyes. Then came the knocking. 3 sharp raps on the walls at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night. Always the same pattern. One night, I worked up the courage to knock back. Silence. Then bang! Something pounded the wall from the inside, hard enough to shake the floor. That was the night Tyler screamed. We rushed to his room. He was curled in a ball, sobbing. "She's in the closet," he whimpered. I threw open the door. Nothing but darkness. But the air smelled rotten, like decaying wood and something worse. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from inside. We left the room, locked it. The next day, I did some digging. The house had a history. In the year 1932, A woman named Margaret Hale lived here with her daughter, Abigail. Margaret, unhinged and paranoid, believed demons lived in the walls. She kept Abigail locked in the closet for years until neighbors reported a foul smell. They found Abigail's body, malnourished, twisted, her fingers worn down to bone from scratching at the door. Margaret swore she hadn't killed her. "The house took her," she screamed as they dragged her away. That night, the whispers turned to screams. They came from every wall, every corner, howling in agony. The air grew thick, pressing against my skin. Doors slammed on their own. The lights flickered. Then, Tyler was gone. His bed was empty, the sheets ice cold. The closet door in his room was open, wide open. We ran to it. Inside, the walls were covered in fresh scratches. Tyler's voice echoed from the darkness. "Daddy?" I reached in, grabbed his arm, pulled him out. But something pulled back, something stronger. I yanked as hard as I could. Tyler tumbled into my arms, screaming. Behind him, a pair of hollow black eyes stared at me from the void. A hand, thin, skeletal, fingers broken backwards, reached out. The closet slammed shut. We ran, left everything behind. Days later, as we drove away from Black Hollow, Tyler whispered, "She's still with us." In the rearview mirror, I saw the back seat. It wasn't empty. Third story. The house on Maple Hill. I had always dreamed of owning my own house, a place where I could finally settle and escape the noise of the world. When I found the house on Maple Hill, I couldn't believe my luck. The price was too good to pass up. It was old, but that only made it more charming, with its large windows, creaky wooden floors, and an overgrown garden that hinted at long-forgotten secrets. The first night I spent there, I felt a strange sense of excitement mixed with unease. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, as though the house was holding its breath, waiting. I chalked it up to the fact that it was a new place, and I was still getting used to the unfamiliar surroundings. But the longer I stayed, the more I began to notice odd things. The house had a rhythm, a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. The whispers started small, just faint murmurs in the walls. At first, I thought it was the wind or perhaps the house settling. But the sounds grew louder. It was as if someone or something was speaking to me in the dead of night. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was all in my head. But then came the shadows. They appeared at the edges of my vision, flickering at the corners of rooms, disappearing when I turned to face them. I couldn't make sense of it. Every night, I felt as though something was watching me, waiting for me to let my guard down. One evening, I decided to confront whatever was haunting the house. I waited until the sun set, and as the house grew dark, I stood in the center of the living room, my heart racing. "What do you want?" I whispered into the silence. For a moment, nothing happened. But then, a door slammed shut somewhere deep within the house. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It wasn't the wind. The door had been latched. Something had opened it. I moved cautiously, following the sound of my own breathing, the only thing I could hear in the suffocating stillness. The door led me to the basement, a place I had avoided since moving in. It was cold, colder than the rest of the house, and the air felt thick with something ancient. I descended the stairs, the wooden steps creaking beneath my weight. As I reached the bottom, I saw it. Etched into the stone wall was a series of strange symbols, runes that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The air vibrated, humming with an eerie energy. Before I could move, a voice whispered from the darkness, "You shouldn't have come." My heart pounded in my chest, and I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the stairs. The voice was low, guttural, and seemed to echo from the very walls themselves. I turned to run, but my legs wouldn't move. It was as if something was holding me in place, a cold, invisible grip. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a storm. The shadows moved, coiling and slithering toward me. Panic surged through me, and I screamed. But no sound escaped my mouth. My vision blurred, and the room spun as though I were being pulled into the very fabric of the house. and then everything went black. When I woke, I was back in my bed. The sun was rising and the house was quiet, too quiet. It was as if nothing had ever happened, but I knew better. I knew that the house had claimed me, just as it had claimed so many others before me. I tried to leave. I packed my things, ready to escape. But when I reached the front door, it wouldn't open. It was locked from the outside. The house had trapped me. The last thing I remember was the sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. But this time, they weren't mine. The house was waiting for the next one to come, and there was no way out.